trying to figure out where we can live. Tried to buy a house, wasn't working out.
We don't have a home. We really didn't have a home to land to. You have to do something. Like, we have nothing to go to.
We had been in a really tough season. Very tough. My health, moving, money, all kinds of stuff. Little did we know it wasn't necessarily going to end yet, but there was an interesting reprieve where the Father began to speak to us, I think in April, about taking 3 months to go to Alaska. And what he said about that was that he wanted to teach us to rest. But we're going to hit a couple of points in it that are key to the Michigan part of our story. On 6/16, we were staying with some friends in Colorado Springs. Friends we hadn't seen in a very long time. And as we're catching up and discussing this new odd journey that we're on, one of the friends shares with us this podcast. We begin to listen, and what unfolds over coming days and weeks and months is that Damon Thompson had pivoted his podcast and his teachings away from what he had been teaching. And right about that time that we began this journey to learn from God about rest, Damon begins this whole 3-month thing teaching about God's rest.
We end our journey from Alaska and we're heading back to Kansas City. And at this point, we don't have a home really to go to at all. I don't want to say necessarily, I'm just going to tell you, we really didn't have a home to land to. And, but whenever we're on our way to Kansas City, I honestly was just like, God, I know you're going to do something. You're going to do something. Like, you have to do something. Like, we have nothing to go to. Also with Bourne's health stuff and working that stuff out. So it was just crazy. But even in the midst of just the unknown, uncertainty, just feeling like everything is so up in the air, like, the Father was so kind and just confirming himself to us. There came a point where Bourne felt led that he should go to Alabama.
We're still in the middle of trying to figure out where we can live. Tried to buy a house, wasn't working out. My health is not doing well. And what are you saying? Like, what's going on? And we're still at this point mostly sure about Arizona. So I had started knocking on some doors, and I had actually applied to a couple of churches. And one of the churches, things started going really well, but I had to go through a church hiring agency to do kind of the initial part of the process and interview and stuff like that. So things were going very well. I got into the last interviews with one other candidate. I was told that. And then I was told I'd be notified in a week or two if I got the job. Right. So that was the prompt of going to Mobile, Alabama. Taking some time to really just be in time of prayer. Yeah, I wanted to get away from kind of I don't think you always have to do that, but I just felt like, it's Father's Day. I'm going to get with my father. And I felt like, I'll go to Mobile, Alabama. Damon Thompson's ministry is there. I feel like that's where I'm supposed to be. And maybe even I'll hear something that will cue me off on an answer. So in that moment, what I felt was the shift of my faith, really. I don't know why you drove us so intensely into Arizona, but I'm pretty sure I'm willing to say, I believe you're actually going to relocate us to Michigan. No connections, don't know why. Right. But actually I remember you called me and you're like, I think we're moving to Michigan. And I was like, no. I was like, that was not what I wanted to hear. No offense to anybody who lives in Michigan. I'm from Texas, and so I'm like, Missouri is north enough, But yeah, I think that was definitely a pivotal moment literally a pivot. Yeah, we are definitely moving to Michigan. Here's where we drop the big conclusion. I'm back in Kansas City. I'm on my way to work. It's been a few days. I'm on my way to work. I get a phone call from the hiring agency and the guy that was over my case. He's like, hey, do you have a few minutes? I said, I literally have about 4. I'm about to pull up to work right now. And he's like, okay, well, I got 2 things I can tell you really quick, and then we can follow up later. Firstly, so the church in Arizona decided to go with the other guy. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know that's so tough. You tried so hard. And I was like, so I didn't get the job. So the second thing he says is, hey, I've got another church in mind. And I think God is doing some really amazing things that fit with the story that he's forming in you. He says to me, I know that, you know, you're feeling like God might be calling you to Arizona and you've got the mold healing thing going on. Would you consider relocating for this job to Michigan? And I'm like, playing it cool. I'm like, no way, this dude just said Michigan. Arizona, Missouri, we wouldn't have to move anywhere from Missouri. There's 48 other states he could have named. And he names the one that we believe the Father is shifting us to.
Crazy. It was just really awesome just to see how this was like all coming through. And it wasn't like we didn't have to do anything to figure things out. Like it was just all laid out there before us. The entire process, how smoothly it went, just again, not an ounce of striving, just allowing the Father to lead, allowing the Father to maneuver us. And so anyways, he gets hired, and then we are now like needing a home. And man, God did some incredible stuff. The Father is just, he loves us so much, and he loves you so much. And so the first home that was presented to us was the home that we actually ended up buying, and it met every one of our needs.
Yep. We had a pretty intense list of needs and wants.
Right. We had, you know, with his health conditions, it couldn't have any water damage. We most likely, or we wanted it really new, and we wanted kind of a tiny home and some land. And that literally checked all the boxes. It was just incredible.
It's the home we're in now.
Yeah, it's, man, so awesome. Anyway, that's kind of a longer story, but it's just, man, the faithfulness of the Father was just so great. And so, yeah, it just all
even the realtors in that were just like, this things happened in a way that it was like, this has to be God. He wants you to have this house. I've never seen anything like it. I even just met with them again just to have a dinner with them, and still they were astounded at the work that they saw God do. And even the realtor was like, I felt like I shouldn't have gotten paid, because it was like, it was hands off. Everything worked supernaturally.
It was so great. And I think something that it really just edified was just the faithfulness of the Father, his leadership, but ultimately, personally for me, it was like even in the, prophetic poetry that was happening, where it didn't seem to have an end or a period at the end of the sentence. The Holy Spirit was really teaching us to enjoy the process and be at rest.
Yep.
Be at rest. Even if you have these scattered pieces, they are a piece to a full picture of a puzzle, but it's the Father's job and delight to put it all together. And so that was like one of the main messages of just being at rest, being at peace, and knowing that the Father loves us and loves you, and it knows your needs, and his heart's desire is to meet them.